Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going? It's Michael Parker, and we are back. And to quote the old phrase, we do indeed live in interesting times. Things that were taboo, mythological, conspiracy theory, all these things that we couldn't talk about, well, we can talk about them now to a certain extent. And the weird thing is, well, a lot of this stuff is turning out to be true. Our guest today is L.A. Marzulli. He is famous for his work as an author, a lecturer, and filmmaker, particularly known for his explorations into the realms of biblical prophecy, UFO phenomena, and the Nephilim. He's the author of 12 books, including the Nephilim trilogy. His films include the Watcher series, and he's won some awards for that, the UFO Best Film and People's Choice Award in 2014. He has over 228,000 followers on YouTube. That's how popular this man is. His most recent book is Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times. L.A., welcome to the show.
Michael, great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
This is probably the perfect time to have you on because so many things have happened this year. And let's just start with some recent news, and then we'll get into deeper, more ancient subjects after that. So this week, one of the things that happened a couple of days ago was the announcement of this task force on the declassification of federal secrets. And Representative Anna Paulina Luna, she's a Republican.
Wonderful woman.
Seems like it. Yeah, I'm a fan. Is going to lead this new task force. And it's, now get this, people. If you haven't heard about this task force is supposedly going to be focused on the declassification of federal secrets regarding the assassinations of JFK, RFK, MLK, the Epstein client list, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, the origins of COVID, and even 9/11. LA, your thoughts?
It's hallelujah. I mean, with a capital H.
Amen, brother.
Because it's about time. You know, we don't have a country anymore. And the plan, before I get into the answer, I just want to say something. And I hope I don't get you in trouble by saying this, but we don't have free speech in this country anymore. We're trying to get that back. But the plan, the master plan was always this. Trump gets shot in Butler, PA. And what's coming out about Butler, I won't say any more about it, but what I've been getting from secondary sources is not good. And it's conspiracy. It's Dallas 2.0, which is what I said the moment it happened. I said, oh, this is Dallas 2.0. This is exactly what it was. Trump was supposed to be killed, which completely throws the Republican Party into total disarray. The old Republican Guard comes up. You know, they're all part of a deep state, whatever. All the people that Trump won't allow in his administration, like Glitch McConnell, perfect example. He votes no on RFK today.
And Tulsi.
Exactly. So Trump's supposed to die. Biden's pushed out of the way. Kamala is the anointed one. She's the one that's supposed to get elected, but that's not what happened. That's not what happened. And it was too big to rig. So what we're looking at simply was this. Trump was supposed to be killed, assassinated. Oh, they'll do the big funeral. They'll all say, oh, we're so sorry. They'll name some airport after the guy and, blah, blah, blah. But Biden steps down, Kamala moves forward, everything's in disarray. The Republicans don't have a chance. Who are they going to put up, right? Who are they going to put up? Nobody. So Kamala's in and the rest is history. But that's not what happened. He turns his head, the bullet grazes his ear, the rest is history. They are looking in the Butler, it ain't over yet. And the fact that they're looking in the JFK, Anna Paulina Luna said in that press briefing that I've seen the footage, there were two shooters. I did a show on this. Look, JFK is riding down in a limo. He comes behind the Stebbins freeway sign and he goes like this because he's been shot from the front and it's an entrance wound in his throat. It's an absolute entrance wound. And when you zoom in and there's a Zapruder film on the front windshield, if you're savvy enough, you can see the bullet hole. That limousine was completely stripped down, devoid of any forensic activity, shipped out, and they replaced the windshield. I'm not making this up. So then he's like this, and Jackie turns, now sees them a line of fire from the shooter behind in the grassy knoll behind the picket fence. And when she finally moves away, watch the Zapruder film. She's like this. She's right in the line of fire because she's in front of JFK like this. She's right in the line of fire. The moment she turns away, bam, the headshot happens. Back into the left. All the doctors in Parkland came out and went like this. Oh, excuse me, the back of JFK's head was completely blown apart. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And this is why the movie Parkland is essential to see. Essential to see. Then you've got, because all the doctors are going, this was an entrance wound, and he got shot in the right temple, which blew out. I went like this, but it's actually this side. Bam. And then when he gets to Bethesda, oh, there's a half an hour. They don't know where the body is. The brain goes missing. I mean, it's the Keystone Cops on steroids. And then RFK, the same thing. Sirhan still has no idea of what happened because he's MK Ultra. Yeah. I believe Crooks was MK Ultra, and this is an inside, deep inside our own government to control the power. Martin Luther King. These are all controlled assassinations, in my opinion. And we've never had a country since, ever. I mean, since the country died in Dallas, that was it. That was the end of America as we know it. And what I love about Trump and I love about Doge is they're going after this stuff. I mean, is it really true that Chelsea Clinton received $83 million? Is it really true that New York City received $58 million to house illegal and five-star hotels in New York City? Meanwhile, our blood and treasure, those coming back from war, right, who need help aren't getting any help. But we're giving that money away. And then Zelensky stands up and he goes, I only got 70 billion. I'm missing 100 billion. How can you lose $100 billion? I mean, this is where we are.
One thing about the Ukraine thing that bugged me, I was doing a show for another network at that time through the entire beginning of Ukraine. And I kid you not, I don't know how many episodes I did because I was doing 3 interviews per day. Every week or once a month, we'd get a report. Oh, okay, it's 50 billion here. It's 100 billion here. And then next time it would be, oh, here's another 50 billion. But they would always say, oh, well, we've only given them 50 or 100 billion. And I swear to God, I must have said this several times. Like, look, I think we're like at $250 billion easy. I don't even know how much we actually gave them. I don't know if we will find out. Hopefully Doge will be able to find out. And so when Zelensky said the other day, he's like, look, I only got X amount of money out of all that other money that was supposedly sent out. It was a money laundering scheme.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. And here's the deal. When the whole COVID thing came out, I was watching the news and I go, oh my gosh, the classic wag the dog. Well, the COVID virus seems to have originated in the Wuhan wet market as it jumped the bat species into human beings. Classic wag the dog. Meanwhile, 20 miles away is the real Wuhan lab. There was a defector, a woman who came out of China. She escaped out of China. She's on Tucker Carlson's show. This is years ago when COVID was going. And Tucker asked her, did the Chi-Coms invent the COVID virus? She said, yes. Then he asked a follow-up question. Did the Chi-Coms release it intentionally? She looks right at the camera and says, yes. And shortly after that, bye-bye Tucker, right? I mean, a few other things happened, but Tucker's getting a little too close. He's a loose cannon. We can't control him, so he's out. Best thing that ever happened. I mean, I don't watch Fox News anymore. To me, it's just a joke. It's a complete joke. They don't cover the news.
That's what I've said for a long time. Well, back on this declassification thing, I'm very happy that it's happening. I don't want to be the black-pilled guy, but I am always a little bit pessimistic. But we are in a completely different situation now with the current administration.
Yes, we are.
So I have hope. And the other day, she said, we're going to start on JFK. Part of me was kind of disappointed, but I guess we have to start with that one. The UFO, UAP, USO aspect of it, if I had to guess, they're going to push that to the last. 9/11 will really be last if we even get that far. But I'm glad that this is happening, and I will take anything I can get these days in declassification of federal secrets.
And I agree. It'd be very interesting if they push it to last. On the other hand, why not do all of them at the same time?
Exactly.
That's what they should be doing. They should one meeting for JFK, one meeting for 9/11, another one for the UFO disclosure. I know Nancy Mace. I love her. I love all these gals. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, Anna Paulina Luna. Thank God we got people in there that have the gumption to stand up, and push back against and that their lives have been threatened and raided and everything else under the Biden administration. Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, how many times did she get raided by feds with automatic weapons at 3:00 in the morning? I mean, this is the deal. We have a window of opportunity to take the country back. The powers that be do not want it. This is why they're pushing back. This is why the screech owls on the View, they're grasping for straws because they have nothing there. Oh, Trump is this, Trump is that. Excuse me. You guys were the ones who were telling us that Trump was going to get us into World War III. Right. As soon as Biden got in there, what happened with Ukraine and Russia?
It was a maddening thing to witness, and the last 4 years were absolutely miserable, but we've come out the other side. Now, I want to move on to something else in the recent news, because I covered this a couple of months, actually in October. And I talked to retired Colonel John Mills. At that time, we were talking about the drone incursion over Langley, which went on for 17 nights. Are you kidding me? 17 nights, things are flying over this highly secure military installation, and that's a whole nest of installations. It's not just Langley. But anyway, so we talk about that, and then flash forward to this past November, then we have the entire East Coast, primarily New Jersey, seemed to be overtaken by all of these drones. And then this bummed me out a little bit, but I think I know why they did this, but I want to ask you about it. So the first press conference, the new press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, she came out and she said, quote, "After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons." Yeah, I don't think that's right.
So there's three possibilities, and I said this right from the get-go, that this has to be sanctioned by the FAA. It has to be, because you're not flying these things over controlled airspace unless it's some sort of a military operation. So they know. The question is, why are they doing this? Are they looking for something? So scenario one is they're testing these drones, they're checking them out. It's a controlled narrative. I get that. But the second is they're looking for something, that some of these drones are sniffers. I talked about, went back to my book, which was released in 2007, Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, The Coming Last Days and the Luciferian Endgame. We know, as a matter of absolute fact, that during the 90s, the southern border was completely porous. We know that the Soviet Union collapsed. Suitcase nukes were sold on the black market. Another fact, absolute fact. And some of the terrorist groups bought the suitcase nukes, and we believe, according to my research and other authors who wrote books about it, smuggled them up through the southern border into the cities throughout the United States. Now, whether that's true or not, you can't vet it. But are those sniffers looking for spikes in radioactivity? Then we found out that radioactive material somehow was missing when the train pulls into the station. Where did that go? The third possibility is what we are looking at is back-engineered craft from S4/Area 51. Yeah. That's being either used by us or them. And I don't mean the Chicoms or the Russians or the North Koreans. This is something else. So because, we're just researchers, I mean, I do get tips from people. A lot of them I can't go with because there's no way to vet them. But I think it's a combination of all three, because some of these drones went into the ocean at a very fast speed. Normal drones can't do this. Normal drones can't stay up for 5 or 6 hours. I don't care who's making them. An hour or two, I mean, I get that. But, and some of the more sophisticated drones, like the Iranians use to launch the attack against Israel, that's a whole different number also. So it's a complex bag, but here's something to think about. If they're looking for nuclear devices or spikes in radioactivity, which is what the sniffers can sniff that out.
Yes.
You really think they're going to tell the American people? Let's just pick Newark, New Jersey, where my ancestors came in 1898. Ellis Island, they all settled in Newark, New Jersey for the most part, right? So they're going to make an announcement. Don't be alarmed at these drones because we're just looking for radioactive material, and we think we found some in Newark, New Jersey. Don't panic. Nothing to see here. Stay in place. Are you kidding me? There'd be a mass exodus from Newark, New Jersey.
The only thing I would say to this, though, this is where I have a problem with all this, because I read about the nuke sniffers as well, and I was like, okay, that's plausible. I get it. And I know for a fact that they started talking about nuke sniffers in the press in 2016. So that's a thing. It does exist. However, these drones, UAPs, whatever they were also being seen throughout the U.S.
Yeah, Mexico, Gulf of America, and California, correct.
Yeah, and also in South America and in Europe. So, I mean, this now, and I will also concede that, if you buy a red car, then all of a sudden you start seeing a lot more red cars than you did before. So our perception changes as we become cognizant of something in existence. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of this was misidentified. But the fact is, the other thing that bugs me about this is if the FAA did know, then they still allowed military installations and airstrips to be shut down during that time period. It's like you would think if the FAA is in the loop, they know exactly what this is, you'd think they'd get on the horn and call our Air Force and military heads and say, look, so here's what's going on. If you see this on your radar or whatever, don't be fussed. We got a project. So I don't know. I'm still a little bit befuddled by all this.
And I am too. I mean, it's a typical thing where something happens and we get the Texas two-step, except it's in Washington, D.C. So what is the truth? And that really is the problem. And this is why transparency and with this administration is it's just so paramount to the future of our country. Because, let me just tell you a story. I was deplatformed for life on TikTok last night. For life. Deplatformed for life. Why? Because I was talking about Building 7 and 9/11. Why? Because I'm talking about the JFK assassination. Mm-hmm. So I don't have free speech. TikTok's a joke. So my liaison, who I sent her all the stuff, Rachel, and she uploads stuff. She went to bat and she got us reinstated, which was amazing. So from now on, we have to do a little disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only.
That's good to know because I haven't done much with TikTok, but that's good to know because most of the stuff that I would put on there would be things like what you and I are talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Going forward, I'll put those kind of disclaimers. So here's another thing. For guys like us who have been following this phenomenon most of our life, I got a little jaded over time. I was like, man, this has dragged on forever and ever. I can't convince anybody of anything. Maybe I shouldn't even be trying to convince them. And they have good reason to ask questions. But December of 2017, that article comes out in the New York Times, Leslie Kean, and the pictures of the Nimitz Tic Tac, the gimbal, et cetera. We are made aware of these programs. And I was like, wow, things started changing at that point. And then in the past year, we've had, well, actually 2 years now, we've had Grush speak up, whistleblowers. And then in the past month or so, we've had this gentleman, Jake Barber. Right. So things are changing. And this is how much they're changing. I brought this up because I want to run this past you. And maybe you already know about it. So most people, it's dollars and cents at the end of the day. You can talk about all these unexplained things, but I really don't care. How am I going to make some money? So a couple of days ago in the Financial Times, Tuttle Capital files for an alien tech ETF. For those that don't trade in the stock market, that's an exchange traded fund. It's usually a basket of stocks. It says this new fund to invest in reverse engineered alien technology based on government disclosures about UFOs. With the ticker UFOD, the actively managed UFO disclosure AI-powered ETF will invest at least 80% of its net assets in a basket of companies that Tuttle Capital, quote, believes have potential exposure to advanced or reverse engineered alien technology spurred by disclosures about UFOs and the alleged advanced technologies. And that's what their registration says. So, ladies and gentlemen, this product may not end up going to market, but here's somebody who's putting their money where their mouth is. And now some people might say this is a publicity stunt as well, because this Tuttle Financial, they also have 7 other funds that they're creating, and those are all AI, quantum computing, drone technology. So this is a very advanced thinking company. But LA, your thoughts? An ETF based on alien technology.
That's a piece of metal that we uncovered at the Roswell crash site in Roswell, New Mexico. We're the only film company ever to actually film the piece of metal coming out of the ground. We did it. Chuck Zukowski was there, Frank Kimbler with his metal detector. Frank got a hit. We go running over and we show it in the film where Frank's digging this thing out. Pretty soon it's out of the hole. Still don't see anything. And he's shifting like this and going to the metal detector, sifting and putting the pile that doesn't register. Finally, he picks up another pile of dirt, goes like this, beep. So now he knows he has it in his hand. So he sifts that and then puts one pile down and it goes beep. Now he knows he's got it in his palm. So he goes like this. It's all on film. And he goes, oh my gosh. And he picks it up, and it's that piece of metal. It's this piece of metal right here. We've had it tested. The closest thing we have to it on Earth is some sort of an aluminum, but it doesn't match anything that we have. There's another piece of metal that Chuck Zukowski gave me, which we're going down to SEAL Lab with in the not too distant future and have that analyzed and see what we're looking at. Philip Corso wrote a book the day after Roswell.
Oh, yeah.
Classic book.
Mm-hmm.
And Lieutenant Philip Corso is talking about, I think it's Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso, is talking about the back engineering. He handed off material to the private sector to have them look at it and see what they could back engineer. Bob Lazar in the 90s talked about back engineering the propulsion system at Area 51, specifically S4. So this goes way back. And here's what's amazing. And this is why Doge is so important. Who's funding this?
Mm-hmm.
Who's funding Area 51, S4? Why hasn't a president since World War II, since the thing was founded, why hasn't any U.S. president gone into Area 51? What's there? Why don't we know? Why is it that no U.S. president can get into Wright-Patterson, some of those areas that are completely sealed off and you can't get into? Why is that? Who's funding this? So we don't have a republic by the people and for the people. We have a rogue element in the government, which is channeling money and funds and doing all this crazy stuff. It goes back in, we were talking about the JFK thing. That scene where the Kevin Costner character, I forget his name, the attorney who's prosecuting this thing, sits down, he's in Washington, and then the other actor, who's a retired general, was sitting on a park bench, and he just gives them the rundown. This is what we did. This is what we did. This is what we did. And it's like Sutherland. Yeah, not Kiefer, but Donald Sutherland, right. Donald Sutherland and Kevin Costner are sitting there, and Sutherland's educating Costner on what happened after the assassination in Dallas. Remember, Kennedy was going to completely shatter the CIA into 1,000 splinters. And then we get Alan Dulles on the Warren Commission. How does that work? You know, who's guarding the hen house? Oh, the foxes. But he told me everything's going to be good. You know, so
everything's going to work out.
Everything's going to work out. You know, before the election, I wouldn't talk about any of this. I would have deflected, and I would have said, Michael, I don't feel safe talking about it. I've been threatened several times. So it's no fun place to be. But we're in a climate where if we don't speak up now, you know, 4 years from now, I'm going to be 79 if I make it, right? So who knows? So now's the time to stand up and let our voices be heard. There's one thing I'm going to do with my lawyer. I'm going to write a formal letter through him demanding that Doge look into the Smithsonian Institute.
Yeah.
Some of these museums around the country, which are withholding information from the public, which are doctoring information. I won't give into the particulars, but it's happened to me at 2 museums where I discovered something, I posted it, and all of a sudden we go back to the museum and, oh, we did a little switcheroo. We did a little switcheroo here.
Yes,
so Doge, because this is, museums are supported by whom? What it's all tax dollars,
foundations,
right?
But it's coming from tax dollars.
It's coming from tax dollars.
Yeah.
Doge needs to look into it because there is a paradigm that exists in archaeological circles and in the scientific community, which only adheres to the Darwinian paradigm. People who are Christians like myself are shut out. You know, I cannot get my DNA samples tested anymore. If I go, and we legally took them out of Peru. So if I go,
is that an authentic?
No, it's a replica. It's a replica, but it's 1-to-1. So this is what it looks like. And if I take carbon-14 dating to a well-known carbon-14 lab, I will get back, oh, this is pseudoscience. So I'm being discriminated against because I have a different worldview, because I'm actually doing research which goes against the prevailing paradigm. And the people who hold tenaciously to the prevailing paradigm, which, by the way, is their religion, no doubt about it, and it's sacrosanct to them, which I understand. They don't want to hear the information. Our information, our DNA research on the elongated skulls found in Peru showed a preponderance of evidence, a preponderance of it, that these entities come from the Middle East or Eastern Europe, the mitochondrial DNA. That rewrites history as we know it. They don't want to rewrite history as we know it because they're all isolationists for the most part. An isolationist in the archaeological circles believes that people move very, very slowly. You know, well, there's an ocean. Oh, I'm not going to build a boat. I'm not going out there. No, that's the isolationist. It takes centuries for people to do anything. Not true. You wake up, you're a 16-year-old Native American near the Ohio River. The first thing you're thinking of, how far can we go down this thing, right? And you build a canoe and off you go. And then you come back and tell everybody what you found. But that's not what they believe. So we believe that there was a diaspora 3,500 years ago when Joshua and Caleb pushed the conquest of Canaan. Oh, and guess what? There's a whole Western expansion of Nephilim architecture all throughout the Mediterranean, into Spain, over to Portugal, up to France, into the UK, and then over here. And that's why we're on the trail. And that's what we've written about it. But if I say that, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, why not look at the DNA? Before you start calling me names, let's look at the DNA. They don't want to.
Let's stop right there because, I mean, you predicted what my next page of questions was going to be about. In August, I was able to go to Peru and also to Bolivia, and I, along with the rest of my archaeology nerds who are into the type of content that you and I are talking about, you know, I went to Nazca, I went to Sacsayhuaman, I saw the skulls in Paracas, I saw the skulls in another place. And what you're talking about, in one particular, I don't remember the city, it was a very small mummy, and it had been gone for a little bit and had recently been returned to this museum that we went to, and we were supposed to be getting special access to this mummy of this small childlike elongated skull being. Well, what was weird to me was, and I wish I could remember the name of the town.
Hiawatha.
Perhaps we go in this museum at the end of the day, because we would do several things, and we'd already seen elongated skulls in Paracas, but this is a different place. Anyway, all that was you pull back this curtain and you go into this small room, and they had the body in this glass case. And you can
That's it. I've been there. We actually did DNA testing on that, on that artifact. We went with Brian Forrester. Brian Forrester was able. Yeah. Were you with Brian?
No, I was with NEXT, Adept Expeditions. And he doesn't share our opinions on these things, but he's curious.
Yeah, many people don't. But the bottom line is, I know what it is. In fact, hold on. I'm going to show you something. I have time. You're talking about this guy. Let me get it here. Ugh.
I think I found it. El Waiki. This.
Yeah, Waiki. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So tell us about this thing.
I'm going to show it to you in about 2 seconds.
Got it. Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And that's the little guy. And
I think he said it was a female, though, right? It
is a female. Yeah, it's a female. But yeah, we actually did DNA testing on it.
So tell me about the DNA testing, ladies and gentlemen. If you're listening to the podcast, what LA is showing us is the elongated skulls. You can go on Google and find these. They're seen throughout the world, but there is a large amount of them in Peru, and that's what we're talking about at the moment. If you're watching the YouTube video, you know what we're talking about already.
All I can tell you, Michael, is that there's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. And the problem is with all this stuff, and the reason why there's so much pushback is that the prevailing paradigm is one of Darwinian. It's a Darwinian paradigm. Darwin runs everything. The idea that there is no supernatural, there is only the empirical, there is no God, no supernatural, no angels, no demons, no afterlife, no nothing. That's the Darwinian paradigm. As Christians, we believe that there is an afterlife. Mm-hmm. As Christians, we believe in angels and demons. We believe in the seed war. And what people don't get, this is the seed war. And that's why the pushback is so severe. Genesis 3:15 tells us that the seed of the dragon, and that word seed, by the way, means offspring. Yes. The offspring of the dragon, the offspring of Satan, the offspring of the fallen angel will be at enmity at war with the offspring of the woman. So you can tap dance around that all you want, but either it means offspring or it doesn't mean offspring. and it means offspring. It says seed, but it's offspring. Okay, the one coming from the woman, the seed, the offspring from the woman, will be the proto-evangelium, will be the Messiah. The seed from the dragon, 3 chapters later, erupts into the Genesis 6 narrative, where the fallen angels see the earthly human women, desire them, take wives, that's plural, and go into them and create the Nephilim, which results in the flood of Noah. And they also sin against the animal kingdom, which creates chimeras. So this is our history. And Greek mythos echoes this perfectly, as does some, ancient Roman mythos, which is building on Greek mythos. So there were chimeras running around the planet. Jesus warns us to be like the days of Noah. Why does he warn us of that? Why, out of all the scripture he could point to, why does he say it'll be like the days of Noah when I come back? Because it's going to be like the days of Noah. There'll be the mingling of the seed. Daniel 2:43 says their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. The word cleave, I got this from my friend Jim Williamson, means marriage, which we get back in the Genesis narrative. A man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. Marriage. There's no marriage in the abduction phenomena. Women are taken, they are impregnated, men are taken, sperm is taken from the men, Daniel 2:43. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men. Who are they? It's not men, so who is it? Then the angel says, Dan, seal up the words of the book until the time of the end. And the angel gives us a supernatural clue written thousands of years ago. Men will run to and fro over the face of the earth. Knowledge will increase. And it's not knowledge of God increasing, like one rabbi tried to correct me. With all due respect, sir, it's knowledge, and it increases exponentially every 6 months. And that seed that's mingling is the seed of the fallen angels. Hybrids are walking amongst us.
I wanted to scroll back just a little bit. You said that you did DNA testing on the particular mummy that we were discussing.
Waikiki, yes.
And you said, I want to make sure I understand this. Are you saying that the DNA testing results showed that these particular people, or at least this particular one, had origins that go back to the Middle East?
Yes. Many of the skulls that we did, like this one right here, this is what we call the baby skull. Mm-hmm. Now, when Senior Juan was alive, and I want to thank Brian Forrester for really implementing all that, but it was our benefactors who gave us lots of money, which enabled me to put the team together. Our head archaeologist is Mano Gonzalez. Our head anthropologist was Rick Woodward. Joe Taylor did the molding, and we unwrapped a 2,000-year-old mummy skull. And this is what it looks like. This is a mold. Again, the orbits are about 20% larger, 25% larger than a normal human being. There's no sagittal suture. And the kicker with all these skulls is this. The foramen magnum is right here. The foramen magnum is right there. That white that you see.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just explain for the audience or the podcast. What he's showing us is the bottom of this skull where the spine would go into the skull area.
Correct. And the white part you see is clay that Joe Taylor, who's no longer with us, made so you would insert a dowel. So when he makes the mold, you can mount the skull. But if in the original skull, there's no clay there. This is where the spinal cord goes into the skull, right there. Well, the foramen magnum should be here, should be in the center of the skull to balance it. It's all the way to the occipital plate. It's all the way to the rear of the skull. Mm-hmm. If it's any further back, it's outside the skull, for crying out loud. And Rick Woodward, our anthropologist, was the one who made that discovery. And once we had that, we were, off and running. This skull here, this baby mummy skull that we did, we had it tested at 2 labs in California. I won't tell their names because they don't want to be known. This is why the deliberate pushback. Well, this is pseudoscience. Excuse me, no, it isn't. But the paleo DNA lab up in Canada was all too happy to have their name mentioned. All 3 labs, no collusion between them, 3 different parts. U2E1, it's Eastern Europe, Michael. It's Eastern Europe. That rewrites history. We did carbon-14 dating on the skull. It's 1,935 years old. So it's way before Columbus discovers America. Wow. Way before.
Well, I want to
this is Michael, it's groundbreaking science. Nobody else has ever done this. And they don't care because it goes against their paradigm. We don't want to know the truth. We've got the history books written. Don't confuse us with the facts. Why? And this is why Doge needs to investigate this nonsense. Really,
I'm with you. We share the same opinion of how information is being segregated, and they don't want you to know certain aspects of it. So it's just told that all of this is pseudoscience. It's nonsense.
pseudoscience. I love that. Isn't that great?
So forget about it. But now, while we're on the subject of Peru, March 4th of last year, I went to a press conference basically about these Peruvian mummies, alien mummies from Peru. I know that you've spoken a little bit about this, and you had good things to say about Jaime Maussan. This was the second time for me to meet Jaime. I like him too. I don't really know what to make of the mummies, but I certainly do not fault the man for trying to figure out. So I was invited.
I don't either.
I was invited to that press conference by my friend Michael Marzulli, who works with Stephen Greer, another person that a lot of people criticize. Man, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. It's like, look, unless I think you're just an out and out fraud, which I don't think in either case these men are.
No,
I want to hear what they have to say, and then I'll sort it out on my own and hopefully get new information. But just for our audience, tell people what these alien mummies are. There's several of them, and what your thoughts on this are.
Well, let's talk about Jaime Maussan. I love Jaime. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Jaime when my late business partner, Richard Shaw, and I flew down to Mexico City. We spent, I think, 2 or 3 days with Jaime. He's just a great guy. He's just full of energy. We disagree as to, what's going on. Jaime's actually in our film, there's 10 DVDs in here. So Jaime's in our film on number 10, What is the Truth? And Jaime talks about, these entities. I believe, unfortunately, that these are constructs. These are modern day constructs. They are real bones in there, but there's metal plates that hold the thing together.
Yeah.
And this is why it's a construct. I had a gentleman who wishes to remain anonymous from an undisclosed location, not in the United States, who took a look at the x-rays that he was able to get just off the internet that Jaime produced. And he emailed me and he said, "LA, these are constructs. If I had the real ones, I could tear this apart in 5 minutes. But I've got, they're a little fuzzy, but look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this." He's talking about the metal plates and everything. He says, these are constructs. Now, Jaime, when we flew down to Mexico City, Jaime was shooting a program in his studio. He goes, "Shaw, Marzulli, I'll be back in about an hour. In the meantime, look at this." And he reaches behind his desk. I'll never forget it. He opens up these cabinet doors. He pulls out this glass vial and sets it down on the desk. And there's the fairy right there. There's the fairy. And, it's got the head of a demon and the wings and a scorpion-like tail. And Richard and I are looking at each other going, "You have got to be kidding me." And when Jaime came back down, "Yes, I got it. I paid X amount of dollars for it." He tells us the whole story. Somebody shot this thing. We've had DNA samples. It's unknown. We're not sure what we're looking at. It's real. So I wrote about it. And I said, look, as far as I know, and I took the x-rays. Jaime gave us the x-rays. I said, as far as I know, and I can show you pictures of it, but whatever.
I watched your video yesterday doing my research, so I know what you're talking about.
Okay, there you go. There you go. And so I said in my book, Nephilim hybrids, I said, as far as I know, it's real. Based on what the veterinarian in Malibu said, he looked at the x-rays, he thought it was real. So then Jaime and Javier got the mummy out, got the little fairy out of Mexico, brought it to us. We had 3 veterinarians on a Saturday morning. It was a closed, the vet clinic was completely closed. We were just there. Richard's filming the whole thing. First thing we do is we take the thing out of the glass jar, put it on a plastic tray, get x-rays, front, back, the whole deal. And the head vet's going, I don't know what to make of this. And we kept focusing on the pelvis area. And I said, well, I get but the pelvis has been blown apart. Look at the buckshot that's there. I mean, the thing was shot. He goes, yeah, I guess you're right. So about an hour goes by, 45 minutes to an hour goes by, maybe a little longer, I don't know. And the thing is just the fairy is still on that tray. Well, what's happening is it's drying out because it was in formaldehyde. So now it's drying out. And I go, oh my gosh, what's this? And I take some tweezers and I reach down and I pick this thing up and I hold it to the vet and I say, what's this? And he goes, that looks like a piece of wood with epoxy on the end of it. And we go back to the x-rays and sure enough, that's what we were looking at. That's on a Saturday. So I was criticized by only one person in Christendom, who basically, he's no longer with us anymore, but he went out of his way. Well, I always knew it was a fake, L.A. Marzulli, blah, 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 blah. And I pushed back and I said, excuse me, on Saturday, once we debunked it, once we got the thing and we were able to examine it ourselves, I called Prophecy Watchers, I called Skywatch and said, stop the presses, it's a hoax. It's a hoax. We call Jaime Maussan. Jaime, it's a construct. It's a hoax. Marzulli, no, it cannot be a hoax. Finally, Javier's on the phone with him going, Jaime, calm down. It's a construct. That's on Saturday. On Wednesday, we're up at the Santa Barbara Museum with a naturalist, and we deconstruct the whole thing. We film it. That's a free film. You can go to my streaming site, streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net, and Google Anatomy of a Hoax. Anatomy of a Hoax. Watch it for yourself. That's what real research is. We're not always right. We can be fooled. But we, as pseudoscientists, we keep pushing and pushing and pushing till we get to the truth. Just like with the DNA, just like with the Baraka skulls. We keep pushing until we get the truth. And these entities are not human. They are hybrid beings. They are, in my opinion, Nephilim. They came over from the Middle East. And that's a fact.
So let's talk about the Nephilim for a little bit, because I got a few more questions before we wrap this thing up. So to the people who may not be fully aware of, they're like, well, that was mentioned in Genesis, I think. So what exactly are the Nephilim? And I guess you're implying they were an ocean-going set of people, because they...
In my film on the Nephilim, the very first film, Mysterious Mound Builders, there's a clip that we show of Thor Heyerdahl, Kon-Tiki, and he builds a papyrus boat, a replica of something that was 2,000 years old. Mm-hmm. He builds this goofy little papyrus boat, puts a sail, goes to the Straits of Gibraltar, no compass, no map, no idea where he's going, puts the sail up. Guess what? It blows that little papyrus boat right over to the New World. Right over to the islands off the coast of Florida, Barbados. I'm not making this up. Yep. So he proved that it could be done. Oh, the modern day archaeologists, this is pseudoscience. No, why don't you go build a papyrus boat and hop on it and see where it takes you? I mean, he proved it, but they don't want to hear that because they're all isolationists. Well, people really didn't do that. That's too risky, blah, blah, blah. No, they were fleeing Joshua and Caleb. They were fleeing, and Nephilim were fleeing the God of the Bible. They knew it was the real God. That's why they freaked out. The Nephilim are the unholy union of fallen angels and human women, creating a hybrid known as the Nephilim. This is why Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. This is why the flood of Noah, which wipes out, because only 8 people were saved because they're not contaminated with Nephilim DNA, fallen angel DNA. And it's a sea war. If you don't understand Genesis 3:15, you don't understand the rest of the Bible, because Genesis 3:15 sets up the rest of the Bible. And where did I get that from? Gary Stearman. It's all about the seed, because it is all about the seed. The Antichrist is the progeny of Satan himself and a human woman. How do I know that? They've already made the film, Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, boy, yep. They've
already made the film. Isn't that interesting, right?
You mentioned chimeras earlier. I read something disturbing this week, and I meant to ask you about it, and then we got on to something else. I'm remembering it now. And they were talking about, and I don't remember where I read this, but it was in the news just a few days ago. They were talking about the use of tissue and body parts from aborted fetuses and putting them into animals.
Yes.
Like, goodness gracious.
Yes. I mean, that's the Fauci testimony. I have it. I'm still debating whether to do a YouTube thing on it. It might not be safe to do that. That's too far over the edge. But yeah, that's what they're doing. This is the days of Noah. I mean, how many times do I have to say it? It just drives me nuts. They're doing it. They're taking this material and inserting it into, aborted babies to see what's going. They're taking tissue from the aborted babies and creating chimeras. I'm not making this up. It's like the days of Noah. But if you don't know the days of Noah and what differentiates it, when you see a headline that, you're going to go, oh my gosh, why are they doing that? This guy's a monster. He is a monster. Isn't it interesting how Biden pardons him? Why does Biden pardon Fauci?
Biden pardoned him. He pardoned his entire family. He pardoned Liz Cheney. Come on, you got to be kidding me, people. If you cannot see it now, how crooked these folks were, then I don't know what else to tell you.
And we say crooked. We don't know, but obviously they're being pardoned from what? Why are they being pardoned? They must have, they're not guilty of anything that we know of. So why are they being pardoned? We're all scratching our heads.
We know why they're being pardoned.
I think it's going to be very interesting in the coming weeks and months to see the kind of skullduggery that our taxpayer dollars is going for. Remember, Trump's only been in there for 24, 25 days, whatever. And already, now this guy's standing up, testimony against Fauci. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And this is a congressional hearing. He's saying, yeah, we took tissue from aborted fetuses and mixing the whole thing in a cosmic blender, making some kind of a chimera. It's the days of Noah on steroids, folks.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
This is a big question, but I still want to put it, because you talk a lot about the Great Deception, the upcoming Great Deception.
Yeah.
But we also, a lot of people have said, we're going to have this thing. It's going to be similar to Project Bluebeam, something like that. What is the Great Deception, and would it include something like a Project Bluebeam?
Can I share my screen with you or no?
Absolutely.
This was a commercial in our Super Bowl 2024. And I'm going to show it to you as soon as I get it. There it is right there.
Predictive programming is a thing.
All day long.
It's real.
All day long. So here it is. I'm going to run it for you right now. Let me go here. Full screen. This is the 2024 Super Bowl.
I watched it.
This is predictive programming on steroids. Here you go.
So flying saucers are nothing new. These are routine sightings, not isolated events.
Are you seeing it? It's spinning. There's a whole swarm of them. Oh my God. They're all against the wind. All against the wind.
Watch the woman. Watch over her head. She wants to see the cat scratching the... Now this is the Eiffel Tower, another mile-wide UFO. Everybody's on their cell phones. Now we flip to a cactus diner. Celebrity bacon diet. Meanwhile, overhead, UFOs. Now we go to Japan. Everybody's on their tablet. There's an alien with an elongated skull. Watch him press the button. Hello down there. Now watch, it cuts to New York. They all look up. Look at her face, one of wonder and awe.
Yeah.
Eiffel Tower, they all look up. New York City again. The Cactus Diner, Japan. Now here's the comic relief. Martin Scorsese. Mile Wide Craft.
This always happens.
The website makes it real, and for the last 4 seconds, we see Squarespace. That is predictive programming. And you'll notice it's a global event. So
Yes.
you remember, you got a minute and 30 seconds to create something. So it's Texas, New York City, Paris, France, and Japan. What they're saying is that when they show up en masse, it's a global event. So the coming Great Deception is this. What triggers them is a nuclear war, a nuclear event somewhere on the planet. A nuclear event, a nuke going off anywhere on the planet, because we're all interconnected via the internet, right? Satellites above us, we're all interconnected. A nuke goes off anywhere, the entire globe sees it. We're all looking at this thing and wondering, oh my gosh, are we all going to die? Are we going to blow ourselves up to pieces, right? That's when they show up. That's when they show up. You know when you get an Amber Alert, everybody's in the room, all their cell phones light up. Amber Alert. How is that done? So when that alien presses the button, and you'll notice that the alien had a huge elongated skull. The book of Revelation tells us that there'll be a one world government and one world religious system, which immediately begs the question, well, how's that going to happen, right? 2,000 years ago, that's a pipe dream. Now, there it is right there. When they show up, everything changes. And I'm going to read you something. This is a track that we produce. So when you order something from our website, my wifey packs 2 or 3 of these with every order. What is the truth? And this is what it says. Are you aware of the fact that there are myths and legends from a number of Native American tribes and from some of the earliest civilizations, like the Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian, Maya, Aztec, etc., that speak of celestial beings from the skies that came down and made contact and interacted with mankind. In our generation, over the course of many decades, there are thousands of extraterrestrial alleged contactees that have received messages supposedly from beings not of this earth that incredibly speak about future events. And this woman is channeling, allegedly, an entity from the Pleiades, the Pleiades star system. And here's the quote: "We are here. We are the Pleiadians. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. The lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood." This is the same lie that led to all the trouble in the first place thousands of years ago with Adam and Eve. Oh, the day if you eat of the fruit, you'll be like God. Your eyes will be open. You'll know good from evil. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. Strike one. If human beings do not change, if they do not make the shift in values and realize that without Earth, they could not be here, then Earth, in its love for its own initiation, is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing that will balance it once again. Well, Earth is not going to do anything because Earth doesn't have a soul or consciousness. Now, the New Agers call it Gaia,
right,
and they do this whole thing. Good luck with that, right? Here's the kicker, and this explains away the rapture of the church. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. I'm not making this up. Remember, this is channeled information from an entity, a supernatural entity, speaking through this particular woman. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. I'm not making this up. So the saying I came up with in 1998 was, "This is the coming great deception." The disclosure of UFOs is the coming great deception. And Michael, when I was in the New Age 50 years ago, 5 decades ago, 50 years ago, I heard this very thing. I heard this exact scenario. And now I'm on the other side of the aisle and I'm warning people because what you saw was predictive programming from that Super Bowl ad.
I have a New Age background as well. We are both curious people, so we looked into things that we
did.
Basically, we wanted answers, and we're still acquiring those. You're more satisfied with your answers probably at this point than I am, still searching. But my point is, so what was it in your life? What made you change your course? What happened where you left that New Age aspect behind, and now you are a Christian?
Well, I was with a guru. I was a New Ager from 13 to basically 25, 27. And then I left the whole thing. I became an agnostic. And I had spirit guides. My third eye was open. I meditated for hours every day. I mean, I did the whole thing, completely immersed in the whole New Age philosophy. And then, like I said, around 27, I became agnostic. And then right around 30, 29 to 30, I started reading books like Great Lion of God from a Christian perspective. Finally, someone said, "Hey, LA, have you ever seen this book? It's called The Cult Explosion by a guy by the name of David Hunt." I had no idea who David Hunt was. So I'm reading the book and I'm going, yeah, I've been to that one. Yes, I checked out S. Yes, I did Silver Mind Control and I passed, all these different things. And at the end is this little prayer to give your life to Jesus. And it explains why. Because we are steeped in ourselves. We are steeped in our sin, the things that we do that we know we shouldn't do, yet we're doing them anyway, no matter what they are. And it was just like this. If you believe on him who was sent, if you believe that Jesus died and by his stripes, there are the stripes, Shroud of Turin, brutal, just absolutely brutal. We're making a film on this, by the way. Should be up by the end of March on the Shroud of Turin. So if you confess with your mouth that he is Lord, that he died for your sins and rose from the dead, you'll be saved. I mean, that's it. So I said, look, I don't know if you're real or not, but come into my life because my life's a complete disaster. And I've tried everything. I've had multiple sex partners. I've slept with all these women, and I'm not boasting, but I was a pig. I was into LSD and mescaline. I was at Woodstock. I was at Winter's End. We all took off our clothes and walked around naked. I mean, I was completely involved in all this stuff. And all of a sudden, a month later, I woke up from this dream, bawling my eyes out. So for the first time in my life of 30 years, the door began to open and crack. Who I was, the lies, the abuse, all the things that were in me, that started to come apart. And about a month later, the Lord took me out of the kingdom of darkness, and they wouldn't let me go. And that went on for about 3 years. I became celibate for 3 years. I was in spiritual boot camp. I became a worship leader because I was a rock musician. I mean, I'm classically trained on piano, but I mean, I was with the Guru's orchestra. I was writing and orchestrating for a 56-piece orchestra, which was like a dream come true. It was amazing. I wrote some really cool pieces. We won't get into that. So then that disbands. I leave the Guru. Now I'm chasing the rock and roll carrot in Los Angeles. And when I became a Christian, I became a worship leader almost immediately. So I was at church all the time, and I read the Bible cover to cover. I would just read Old Testament, New Testament, finish, do it all again. Just couldn't get enough of it, and I couldn't get enough of prophecy. And then the Lord began to do things supernaturally in me, and that continues to the present day. So it's not like this thing, but people think they know. There's a saying I came up with: if you think you know him, but you don't know him, then you don't know him. And it's a personal relationship. I mean, I'm not using that word, that phrase in a glib way. It's, the Son of God. He's appeared to me once. All right. And it was a very intense morning, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. It's just piled on, man, just piled on. And I'm in my van. I have a cabinet shop. This is like, 35, almost not 40 years, but close to 40 years, but 30, 37, 38 years, doesn't matter. So, but it's a long time ago. And I'm not doing what I'm doing now. I still have a cabinet shop, for crying out loud. I'm in my van and I'm crying because I'm just overwhelmed with everything. I can't deal with this. It's too much for me to handle. And I'm driving down our canyon road like this. And I'm not making this up. And all of a sudden, in front of me is his face, which looks kind of like this. That's from the shroud. Except it was not a corpse. It was alive. And he looked at me, and Revelation says his eyes are like flaming fire. It's exactly what I saw. Burning with love. Burning with love. And I'm driving and I'm going, how can I be driving the car and seeing the road and seeing Jesus all at the same time? How is this absolutely possible? And I just sat there like this. It lasted 10, 15, 20 seconds. I don't know. And I mean, I just realized I wrote this worship song called Holy Love, burning for us. Holy love, sacrifice for us, the holy love of Jesus. There's a scripture, and most people know it, it's Romans 38. No, what is it? Romans 8, 38, 39. Romans 8, 38, 39 says this. For I am convinced, this is Paul writing, saying, I'm convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angel, nor demon, nor the present, nor the future, nor any power, nor height, nor depth, nor anything in all of creation will be able to keep us from the love of God who is in Christ Jesus. That's me driving that van. I experienced it, and I came back at the end of the day and I set up a rock on the property as like an Ebenezer, as a reminder of what had happened. I mean, I don't tell that story too much because people think you're nuts, but that's what happened. And that's who he is. He loves us. He loves us.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to hear that. And I appreciate you for sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like this show and you like what I present to you today, you heard the testimony of L.A. Marzulli. You can find his work, lamarzulli.net, I believe is your website. Is that correct?
lamarzulli.com.net. And then the rungs of disclosure, which we really never got into, but that's okay.
Next time.
Disclosure.com. rugsofdisclosure.com. And if you want to watch the videos, there are 30 films in our catalog. Gil Zimmerman and I did 10 on the UFO disclosure. That's streaming.lamarzulli.net. So we've had an hour together. I've written 14 books and created 30 films. Do your homework, folks. That's all I'll say. Do your homework.
I'm going to put the links to all that in the body of the description of the web, of the podcast and of the video. I hope that we could do this again. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and we live in the same city, so we
should do lunch.
Love to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Michael Parker. I'll wrap this thing up. I appreciate you being with us, and I will try to be more prolific in the coming months with my work. And to all of you who continue to listen to it, I really appreciate you. And until next time, keep your heart and your mind